we just hit 11 o'clock. So I just want to quickly say hi, everyone, to our webinar. It's our second webinar for 2019, and it's brought to you by Horizant. I'm your host with Horizant, Tiffany Lamb, and I do have with me Kelly here as well. And basically, this webinar is going to be targeted to those familiar to ARCHIBUS and those who are brand new to it. So basically, anyone who wants to understand the tiering and the product suite system that ARCHIBUS is introducing. And with that, let's go ahead and let you know what the agenda is. So this is the concept of the agenda. I'm going to do a really quick introduction about who Horizon is and what ARCHIBUS is and basically what IWMS is. We're going to go straight into the product demo. That's going to have this kind of flow. So when you're reviewing this webinar afterwards, it is recorded. We're uploading it to our YouTube channel as well. So you'll be able to basically identify which section you're at and then where you want to revisit. So it's time to get the webinar rolling with introductions. So we mentioned we're Horizon, we're basically the people side of the equation for IWMS deployments. And IWMS stands for Integrated Workplace Management Systems. So this is pretty much us in a nutshell. We basically specialize in technology for the corporate real estate and the facilities management, and working extensively with many public sectors and private sectors. And that's a glance there for you to see the different sectors we work from, with finance to energy, utilities, and healthcare, all the way down to education, manufacturing, and insurance and technologies, and then basically everything from the municipalities to the provincial level and the federal level. So that's who we deal with in Canada and even in the US. So next slide is we focus on, I mentioned IWMS. So we use the platform called ARCHIBUS, and where they're a third-party reseller. And that's some quick facts there about ARCHIBUS. In short, it is a TIFM solution, so that's a total infrastructure and facilities management solution out there. And it's ranked #1. We mean that because ARCHIBUS has proven they stand that ground. So I was throwing some terms out there, IWMS and TIFM, and basically what happened was Gartner first coined the term IWMS. And there's very similar acronyms like that, which you might have heard me use throughout today. So just where you want to know, basically, out of all these acronyms, is that you're looking at the best solution that's been rated by consultants that specifically research and compare very like products that they put into these kind of classifications of managing facilities, managing real estate and such in that portfolio. So Verdantix is one of these kinds of evaluators, and they've ranked ARCHIBUS and the top marks there in the following 6 criteria there among the other 14 competitors. And they then rank all those different competitors using kind of a capability quadrant. So it's a rating system, and it ranks ARCHIBUS as a leader on that green quadrant. So you can think of that as kind of a leaderboard. Now you're going to hear one more term that I'm going to introduce to you, and that's called EIM. So that's Enterprise Information Modeling. So basically, all those terms, all those acronyms are sharing the concept that you have a solution that has 4 major domains. On the top left, you'll have your workplace. That's your managing of moves and space. And on the bottom left here, we have your workplace, so your basic self-service. I want to book a desk, I want to ask for help, or book for a meeting room, followed by the management of any of your physical assets or even connectivity of them. And then we move on to capturing your portfolio, which is your real estate. And then there's also the capital project and the budgeting side of things with condition assessment. And on the bottom right here, we have your engineering and operations. So that is dealing from your on-demand, the light bulb's broken, so you need to repair it, and as well as the preventive maintenance. So to complete that picture is basically having a solution where all those 4 domains connect, they exchange, and they seamlessly integrate with one another. So to summarize, where the folks that help you with the IWMS practice and software, And I listed here on the bottom some of our services below. So we provide these to our clients, but at the same time, we do also believe one of our key philosophies here is to enable our clients to be independent. So with some of our training options and the trusted advisory options, then that also allows kind of a transfer of knowledge that your organizations will then have the right rules to bring out an IWMS play within independent. So, but at that same time, we're here to fill those gaps when you don't have those resources or you don't have that experience to do that. And we provide the industry best practice to give you a helping hand to your success. So that's basically enough about us. So it's time to start talking about the suite. So why did ARCHIBUS introduce these suites? So this is the next exciting piece here, because traditionally, ARCHIBUS has always had something which now ARCHIBUS is calling the enterprise suite. So anyone who's a user of the software, they know there's a full domain based on an IWMS functionality. So now you know that ARCHIBUS is calling that the enterprise suite or the enterprise tier. Now, not all organizations can get there overnight or even need all those functions. So there was actually demand for some of the entry-level to mid-tier deployments or even large deployments that where they want IWMS, but they don't quite have that full practice within the organization to go there and be ready for it. So that's where you start off with something called the Essentials here on the left, which is kind of a light operational approach to allowing organizations to get their feet wet with an IWMS play. And there's actually a lot of pre-configurations that come with the Essentials too. So you can opt to deploy it across the organization because it handles a lot of that self-serve approach. So someone can basically ask for something and have that be controlled by the end users. And then basically allow focus to only a few staff that manage the entirety of the product. But even if you don't use the self-serve approach, you can certainly still use the Essentials suite and just allow a few members within your organization to manage the data within the product. And when you need to handle the data from more of a managerial play, because you're dealing with more complex processes, then you can opt to have the professional suite. So you could also mix and match and say, I need Essentials and I also need professionals. Or again, you can just say, yeah, we're just going enterprise. So what I want to showcase is that basically what you're going to get out of the picture. Now, I have to admit here, there's a bit of a disclaimer because some of the details I've got, it's not 100% confirmed yet. So ARCHIBUS actually is launching these new product tiers, like you've seen. And they're going to have very soon release also the corresponding pricing as well. So the check marks that I have, and based on functionality, it's based on what I know right now and based on current information. So what I wanted to do in terms of the slideware was to line that back to that whole IWMS and EIM concept where you have those domains and those functionalities. And then basically, if you take a glance at below at the bottom there, there's a bit of a legend. First off, any of the gold check marks is just highlighting that they're more of a lightweight functionality within that suite. And then followed by the blue check marks, which is more of a complete functionality. And when we look at this other icon, which is representing the kiosk, that is representing any of those self-service devices that you might see at a lobby level or a floor level, or even in front of a room, for example, that you can prompt to ask for some self-service. And mobile at the end there is just representing all the handhelds, so it doesn't matter what kind to go forward with when you're using Android or Apple. So I don't need you to burn this image to the back of your head right now, because I'm actually going to show you the same picture at the end, but initially just set the stage of what you're going to be expecting to see. So when we start off with the idea of Essentials, just remember it is the idea of going into more of a lightweight approach. And it's for folks who, in this case, might not be fully EIM ready, but in using ARCHIBUS, you've got the tool that gives you the path to always go into a full-blown enterprise EIM structure. So with that said, let's go ahead and get some stuff ready here for you. So next, you should still see, let's see here. Here we go. Okay, so now what this concept of the view is to represent going up in front of a kiosk device. So this could be a kiosk situated in the lobby or on the floor, and you can ask for things such as booking a meeting space. You can book a desk. You can certainly create a ticket. And if, for example, I'm at the lobby, I'm trying to find someone at a building, so I can do a search and look for, let's say, an Aiden. This gives you all the responses that are similar to that search. So actually, let's do that, and I find my search. That's the person I'm looking for. It also then lets me know where they're located, and then their contact information as well. But some folks might have a very hard to remember name, so you might end up finding out, you know what, they're at the facilities department. So instead, I'm actually going to search by a facility as a department name. So now I can do a search on that. We know they're somewhere on the 4th floor or that particular building, so I'll run that search. And now I'll know the general area where to find them, even if I don't know their name. So have that said, we're still on the lobby floor. I'm going to pretend that we're going to book a meeting. So we have here the ability to pick from the map, and I can already see the layout of these rooms here. That means I can click on any of these rooms and start booking. But if I want to look at it from more of a kind of a catalog view where I can see the picture of the rooms, I can do that too, so that I can be sure I'm happy with the room that I'm getting. And over here on the right, you do have a filter which allows me to specify some reoccurring pattern if I'm doing kind of a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting. And I can pick a date and specify any other criteria and making sure that the meeting room definitely has these certain resources and run a search against that. But clicking into the room itself also gives me an idea of how many seats there are and also the amenities that come with it. So then if we're happy that it definitely has a projector, then I can go ahead and start booking the times. So now I can also see what times the rooms are available too within the gray area or space times that I can't pick. And we'll go ahead and pick a time that is, right now it's about 11:12 my time because I'm based out west. So we'll go ahead and say the 11:30 time mark and go next. We're going to give a meeting name. So it's close to 11, so we'll just say it's a lunch and learn. Or IWMS. And you can also specify how many attendees you're bringing along as well, and the department, as well as who's the organizer of your meeting. And if you wanted to keep the details private or not. And we can go ahead and invite additional attendees. So that just means you can look for an employee or look for a visitor. And I'm going to go ahead and run that search against that fellow as well that we were using earlier, or others that might be available there. So let's actually look for this way. So depending on where my search abilities as a end user, we can certainly hide this information as well. So we'll go next and we'll go ahead and book this meeting. All right. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to show another scenario. So you're walking to the room, and basically there could be a self-serve device in the room. And momentarily here, I'll have that set up so that you can start seeing the idea of a kind of a self-serve device in front of the room there. Okay, so should see my screen like this. And we're going to expand that. So you might have these devices in front of your room. So if you walk past the kiosk, you still have a chance to book the meeting, or basically see what kind of meetings are already available already at that room as well. You also do see here at the top that it does mention it's available until 2 p.m. So if we were to book right now, then basically we can go ahead and do that, or and running through that same flow where we can see that you can set your recurrence pattern. And of course, some rooms might have some rules in there. They might require that you need to book a certain amount of leeway time for it, or what have you. So those things are part of the ARCHIBUS system. And I'll just quickly make one more meeting here. And then we'll go next and quickly confirm. And momentarily here, we also will mention that the tool here is web-based. So basically, this is a URL. So that's why you could use any kind of self-serve device as long as it can get to a link. Then you can run this kind of a service on your room. And because we've booked it from this time, we're able to check in. And if I got out of the room early, I didn't really need the room, got out of the meeting early and I can release it so someone else can book it, I can certainly hit the checkout button as well. So that's kind of the flow there. And we'll do one more device for you for your viewing purposes. So momentarily here, we'll get that started. And we're actually going to show you one more situation where you might now be a user of the system. So previously we didn't have to log in or anything like that. Now we're going to go in and be a user who is using the system, who is an employee, or they have a user account, and they can now be going into the system on their mobile device. Just having a little bit of difficulty right now, so just bear with me for one moment. Okay, so let's actually establish the link between my phone and the screen there. Or maybe we'll do it this way, actually. Give me one more moment to run that link. Okay, it must be because I'm calling at the same time that I couldn't actually run that function. But if that's the case, let's just go ahead and show you another way that we can show you what's on our screen. So the web page here actually is web responsive. So we go into the system, basically we can sign in as a user of the product. And if you're a user, then basically it's going to react differently. It's going to give you different functions. But if you're actually a guest, then you might have limited functionality on the screen. And let's just maximize it so we have a clean screen here. And momentarily we'll get this rolling again. Okay, so what you're seeing is not necessarily my phone right now, but it's the idea that you can go onto your device as a user and basically do the same things. As a user, I'm actually logged in as that person I was searching for earlier, Aiden, and you can book a meeting room, you can book a desk, you can create a request, you can even create a move too. So just like that. And you also see the list of the meetings that you're going to upcoming. And if you have to go to that today, you can certainly check in and check out within the timeline. And then any workstations that you've also booked as well. So let's go ahead and we're going to go and create, we're going to book for a meeting workspace. So that means we're allowed to pick and say we want to do a reoccurrence pattern as well. We pick the date, say we need it for the full day or the afternoon or just the morning, and then run a search for that. So again, if you want to look at from the list view, this particular floor actually doesn't have any available workspaces, but if I switch to the third floor, I can certainly see that we have some desks that can be booked. And you know what happens when you end up being the first person who's booking on a floor plan and you get all these rooms, you're going to pick the window seat. So we're going to go ahead and pick one of these ones here and book it. And then you basically say you're booking for yourself or for another person. That's the final confirmation sheet, and we'll go ahead with that. And then the system will also send me an email to say I booked it. Now you're at your desk, you go to that workstation that you booked, you realize something doesn't work for you. So what your next thing you're going to do is you're going to also potentially create a ticket. So, and when you create a ticket, that might prompt you to pick from the list here what type of common tickets you might have. And we are also going to show you one more thing here is like you could also type in these problems, or when you prompt from your phone directly, you might notice I have to fill in the location. But if I don't know the location, or if I want to do things a little easier, let me do one more test to see if I can get the screen share to go up from my phone. And if I can't, then we'll just roll with it. Oh, you know what? I can do this on my iPad, so maybe we'll do that instead. So instead of the phone, which is probably what most people would be using, let's go ahead and showcase it on the iPad there. Okay, so you should see my device again. And we'll maximize it. So now I'm just kind of holding it as if I'm holding a phone. And you're going to use your camera. You can have a barcode at the room there, which will give you the opportunity to open a link. So that will then pick up details such as the location you're in. And I'm just going to quickly sign in. and it already knows the room you're in. ARCHIBUS in the Essentials piece actually has the tools that let you build these kind of QR codes, and you can use them for rooms. You can put them to your equipment items. But the nice thing here is you can also see the existing tickets that are happening at this location as well, and what their progress is. But I'll go ahead and create a new request. We're going to commonly say something like it's too cold in here. So you can type that in, but with your phone or any other mobile device, you can certainly use dictation. It's too cold in here. And notice the next thing is, let's go back for 1 second. It's too cold in here. So notice one more thing here is that ARCHIBUS also picked up the location because that QR code is passing that information when we prompt for this request. And you can certainly upload a photo because you might go up and take a photo of a thermostat. So I'll just pretend I'm in front of something and I'm taking a picture to prove that it is cold. And then we send it. So then that way, it then routes accordingly. The request has been created. I myself, as the requester, could get an email. The supervisor will then also get the information about the ticket coming in. So now you're also wondering, so how do these tickets now get handled? But they do still run through a service level agreement within the ARCHIBUS Essentials piece there. So we're going to show you the Essentials piece there. All right, so just doing some more setup, and we're ready to roll in 1 minute. All right, so now you should see my screen again. So now the idea here is that a supervisor or maybe a front desk user would go into ARCHIBUS, and it is web-based, so they log into a URL. And basically here, it is more of a unified version of getting all your tickets. So traditionally, you might be used to something called a workplace services within ARCHIBUS, and that's available in the enterprise suite. But this Essentials version has the ability to showcase all incoming reservation requests and all desk requests, because there's going to be set up and take down requirements to these rooms. So you'll have the ability to see all those incoming tickets, including moves, and then including the ask for setup and takedown for these spaces for meeting requests. So when we pop into one of these here, let's just open it. You have a simplified management of the ticket. You can pull up more information about it. You certainly can assign the work to a trades group or user. So for example, this was a bit of an IT problem, so I might go ahead and look for some sort of equipment tech or an IT user and give them hours of how much they're going to spend on this work. And then as you notice here, we're updating the cost for it. So you'll have that information and then the status behind the information about it being completed. Now, each of these tickets are going to get a status, and your job is basically to route them to get approved or completed. So if I look here, I have some approved tickets as well. And let's go back to the ticket that we were working on earlier. And the idea there is you can also run the individual actions to approve it and get it towards completion. You can certainly do the multi-select as well to deal with multiple tickets and run updates to them. Now, I'm going to purposely open up one more other ticket that might look a little different. So this one here was a cleanup, which also has kind of the idea that you can also assign someone to deal with that work. And if we look at a move, now you might notice that the form is different. So depending on the type of request you go into, the form's going to update based on that. And then here it's more of a concept of you're going to move someone to another space and you might update some other additional information. So I will mention the system is role-based. So if you're a user that's here to see everything, you will see everything. But if you only manage the moves or you only manage the incoming requests for setup and takedown for the desk and the workspaces, then you'll only see those items. Now, the functionality behind this service console is meant to be more lightweight. So if you stick around a little longer, we will show you how the professional suite will give you more options on how you manage all these tickets. So we will also come back here to show you what the ARCHIBUS would look like for those in more of the supervisor or the executive role where they want to get into a landing page when they start the system and they want to see the main buildings that they're in charge of and see some performance criteria or the metrics for it. So when you look here, you're seeing the important metrics against the locations. You can also take a look at any kind of alerts. So when they start their day, they know that there's certain problems that are happening, as well as major metrics. So they might need to check the meeting utilization or the vacancy and drill down by different buildings and understand which buildings are overutilized. And of course, someone else who might be in charge of keeping all the space inventory up to date would also benefit from a landing page like this because they're going to go into a space console to update all their information to make sure all the spaces are current. And when your metrics are telling you, you're going to start listening that when it tells you you need more space and when spaces aren't well used. So the space manager has the ability to update all the spaces. They can certainly do a search and find their particular building. And we pull up the floor plan. We can run different types of highlights. In this case, let's just talk about the meeting rooms. So we knew the green spaces here, following this legend, represent a meeting room. So when your metrics are telling you you're overusing your meeting spaces, you need more meeting rooms, you're going to start looking into what spaces are suitable for you to transform it into the next meeting room. So we'll go ahead and basically say, you know what, I'm going to update it and make it into a classroom style or conference style. We'll click one of these support rooms and then we'll commit and make that change. And the next time someone's going to start being able to now use an extra meeting room. So that's kind of the idea of the Essentials Suite. And we're going to now come back and then start talking about the Professional Suite. So the Professional Suite, it offers more tiered functionality and it's very similar to that of the Enterprise Suite. But it's actually grouping functionality for more of an operational approach. So when I get into the homepage, you'll start noticing that difference there. So here's an idea of what a homepage would look like for a professional suite. So what we do have is, you saw earlier I went to the space console, so that's also available within the professional suite, but it mainly focuses on having more reports for you to use against space and also to deal with moves. So you saw that we were managing moves earlier in a very simple process where we're just saying, yeah, we did it, we update it to say it'll be done. Here, you're going to be dealing with moves in a more of a structured way. So when you see here, we have all the incoming moves there, everything from requested to being approved and issued You're also dealing with employee moves and room moves, group moves. So let's actually just jump into the idea of a group move. So that's the idea of many small individual moves grouped together. Here's a profile sheet about our move. And then these are the individual items that go with this whole group move. So we come into this here, the individual move. You'll notice this form is actually exactly the same as the one when we were showing the concept of a singular move earlier. So these all individually have their statuses for you to deal with, and that even includes everything from moving your equipment and your furniture to even dealing with teams of moves. So some people are starting to deal with more of a modern shared space approach or a flexible space approach where you would have your staff put into a team and you grant them space. So here's the staff that might be going and moving into a team. And then basically you want to give them space. And then followed by here, I just want to quickly highlight before I keep going on to the teams is that you'll also have your multiple actions that go to a move. That's everything from having someone move the boxes or set up the phones to the wiring. So all those get routed to an individual to help with the process, and they'll have their status as well. And as you can see here, we also just have some additional equipment items that belong to a certain employee. So when we move that employee, it's expected that that goes along with them. And then the same thing with furniture as well. Now, let's quickly highlight, you can deal with multiple scenarios here, and as well as copy any and add any additional scenarios. But that's just basically letting you play around with the space so that you can understand what's the best possible layout out of it that you can use. So here we have a scenario that's for a team space. And when we look at a team, you're dealing with the amount of employees that are part of the team versus the amount of space they've been granted. So that builds out a ratio that ARCHIBUS helps you calculate. So when I go ahead and change the spaces, now I'm assigning and saying, you know what, I'm going to give this particular team even more space. Here on the green are all the available spaces that aren't assigned to a team yet. So I can go ahead and grant them this additional space, commit that change, and you'll notice that our ratio has now been updated and lowered. So when you're trying to get that right blend between the employees to the amount of spaces that are available, you'll be able to do that. And then that could be one scenario, and then you might try different combinations, and that might be another scenario. And when you're finally happy with it, what you're going to do is update and move one of your scenarios to production, basically, for your move project. Because here, each of these moves here will get approved and routed, and then anything that's routed and issued, basically you'll go in and you'll basically update and complete them over time. So the next piece here, we want to talk about that there is an operational tier with professionals. So you can pick the items you do need here. In this case, we have the whole building operations piece and the preventive maintenance planning. So the building operations, anyone here who's actually a user of ARCHIBUS, you already know building operations. So this is all very familiar to you. But this is more of that structured approach where you're dealing with ticket escalation rules. You're dealing with routing it to different teams or different craft persons, and you're dealing with wanting to, let's go ahead and narrow down to my request, and we'll run the search again. Anything that's been escalated. And the idea here is every one of these tickets do have their own quick buttons for you to run estimations, scheduling, or issuing and completion to them. So any one of these individual tickets here, as you complete some of those tasks, you've estimated, you run a schedule, they're going to get a check mark as well. And in addition, earlier when we were on the essentials piece there, we opened up the ticket. Well, when we open up a ticket here in the professional suite, you notice you have a lot more details. So instead of just simply saying you just want to put a craft person against it, you have the additional, I want to add a reference library when someone's in this room or they're working on this type of equipment or this type of problem. I want to give them manuals, so that allows you to share that information so that the groups of folks that are working on it will be able to get the right documentation for it. You can also see all the history behind it. You can certainly add parts to deal with the work or tools as well. And as well as add the craft people as well. So that part in terms of the craft people has not changed. But what we'll also showcase is you can certainly click on these items here. I'm just going to grab a few of these that haven't been scheduled. And we're going to schedule the labor. So in the professional suite, you're also dealing with the labor scheduling, where you're dragging and dropping work to the employees. In this case, where we're looking today on Friday, so I've got the full look here, as well as being able to see the hours that my staff are available, or we're going into overtime hours, and as well as absentee hours. So you'll be able to have a good look as to times that staff are not available for you to block off. And then you basically are dragging and dropping the tickets to their schedule. And because this operational section of the professionals is also dealing with escalations, you can see here that because this ticket was escalated a long time ago, do I want to continue with it? So I'm going to go ahead and say yes during our demo, and basically put that to someone's calendar as well. And then basically updating and saying how much hours we want to build out over time for the work. And ARCHIBUS is doing a lot of error handling. So for example, in this case, in the service level agreement, if I said this ticket really should just take 5 hours, or that's what I assume it should be completed by, then ARCHIBUS is going to give you all those warnings. In this case, I'm going to say, you know what, instead I'm going to say it's going to take 2 hours instead to complete this ticket. So now we're getting the right check mark to lock this particular work in place from a scheduling perspective. And we're now going to also show you the preventative maintenance side of things. So you're also dealing with that preventive maintenance schedule on top of your on-demand schedule. So the planner here lets me see at a glance all the different types of equipment, for example, where I have to deal with preventive maintenance. I also see at a glance how much has been on time and missed and completed. And with each of these individual tickets here, from a week-to-week perspective, these are all the individual equipment. They'll have their tickets. We see that that's the layout of the work that we're expecting to do within the next few weeks. And you certainly have the ability to keep going forward into the future as well to load additional timelines. But let's come back out here and just open up one of these tickets for you to, or one of these procedures to let you know what you're going to expect. So you'll build out a procedure library. You'll have different steps to do with this particular, the management of this asset. You're going to have an expectation that you need a certain group or a certain trade hours to do the work, as well as certain tools that you might want to book and certain parts you're going to reserve. So then that way, when you generate the ticket, it'll go into your preventive maintenance as well as your building operations console. And you're also dealing with long-term scheduling. So you'll be able to change the schedules as you need, if you need to deal with different frequencies. And of course, the other thing to add to the picture there is you're also dealing with the cost and the labor behind every one of these preventive maintenance items. So here we're looking at the calendar from a week-to-week perspective. So I do see in this particular week, the 11th week here, I'm spending exactly this much to do all the work and I'm expecting that I'm going to I have resources in terms of 51 hours to do all that preventive maintenance work. So if I really want to break that out and I want to make it a little more fair to others, I can certainly adjust and then update it so that we're loosening the load against the other employees, in the sense that now we're giving the ticket to pushing it to another week. So this allows you to dynamically update all those timelines, and as well as run a labor analysis against, well, you know that staff are going to have a total expected amount of available hours week to week, along with all their absentees and other times. So you're also going to be tracking with ARCHIBUS, well, what's the average amount of on-demand hours that they're doing too. So you'll get a snapshot of that versus how much planned hours you're putting against them for preventive maintenance tickets. So then that then gives you the sense of, well, this is actually how many remaining hours you should be actually be expecting. So you understand when you're going to have labor shortages, or when's the best week for you to push a bunch of work for preventive maintenance. So that's basically it for that side. And let's come back out to the professional suite, and we're going to talk about the asset tier. So that gives you the ability to do things such as register new assets. You are also dealing with parent-child relationships, as well as the life cycle to the disposal of the assets. So let's just start with life cycle. First off, we want to show you a total snapshot of all your assets, where along with the filter-driven approach, you can certainly update and look for buildings with certain statuses, or your certain equipment items that might be out and sold or repaired, and you can run those filter-driven responses to see a snapshot of the total asset count, followed by the depreciation and market value and how much is it to replace these lemons. And along with that, always get a sense of the life cycle of these assets. And we're able to, first off, pull up, run a search against the asset catalog, or run a search against any one of these individual columns. And going into one of these assets here, we can see all current activities. So that's knowing that there's going to be moves against it, work requests against it, and what kind of statuses are these particular tickets at. We can certainly pull up a profile and drill down into what's the individual tickets themselves. And finally, we'll also showcase the ability to deal with all the statistics. So let's go and pull up a profile. We can see here, this is our total asset and what's their conditions, what's their statuses, how much is their total purchasing price and cost to replace them for anything that's expiring. Followed by that, we're also going to show you the details about, oh, here we go, we just got the ability to also spot them on the map as well. And we do have the parent-child relationships of all our assets. So as you work with your system, you can certainly build all the different systems and all the assets that where they fall on that whole relationship. That allows us to pull up any one of the assets, pull up the information of where they're located, and as well as pull up the profiles of all the individual assets themselves. So that's, and then also being able to tie that all back to your maintenance orders. As you can see here, all your assets are also tied to your space. That's just to show you how the adaptability of IWMS, that you're seamlessly tying all the space information and your assets to your maintenance and so forth. So with that said, that was a quick summary of the professionals. So now we're coming back to this original slide that I'll show again one more time, just so you saw that those were the main areas we focused on today. And so that you have a better understanding of the functionality of the tiers. And just remember that as ARCHIBUS releases more information, some of this information is going to be a little more clear. So there might be additional functionality to Essentials and Professionals as we go on. So with that said, we just want to give a quick thank you from Kelly and I for your day and letting us continue to provide these webinars. And also, you might have noticed we do have a bit of occasional technical issues with these webinars. So we might be exploring some different methods to provide you the best kind of presentation. So we also do upload our videos to YouTube after as well. If you haven't subscribed to that, be sure to do so, because you'll be notified when we upload new videos. We might actually even start trying to see what it will be like when we go live, so that if we can improve the way we're presenting to you, that would be great for us and win for everyone. So if you do like what we have been presenting to you when you see this video on YouTube, be sure to give us a thumbs up and also subscribe. It will really help us. So in that regard, we do want to start concluding. We want to say, stay warm, stay safe, and for now, we'll see you guys shortly again. Thank you. All right, goodbye, everyone.